All right, let's look at number 8 here. It says, in what year will one share of stock be worth $50? So that's a different question. Let's look at it in terms of our graph. In what year here, meaning what y value here along this axis, representing a calendar year from 05, our starting point, will the value be $50? So that's off our chart, as it were. So $50 would be up here somewhere, and where does that line meet at the $50 marker? Somewhere up here. If you think of this being extended, where is that on this line here? So we don't have enough space to use our slope to figure that out. I mean, we could try and figure out where that line hits the 50 marker here. But let's look at this. What does it mean in terms of our symbolic rule? And can we use it? And the answer is yes. So let me use it here. The question is, what year, what number of years since 05, that would help us, will give a value here of $50. And so hopefully you're thinking algebraically. Could it be that simple? I mean, replace that with 50 and then find out what year makes it 50. And the answer is absolutely yes. So an algebraic method here is what we want to use. So we want to replace our value of one share of stock with 50 and then find the corresponding year since 05. And that's going to give us the calendar year. So let's do it. So here is, again, is our symbolic rule. Symbolic rule there. So again, we're trying to find out in what calendar year from 05 will give a $50 value of one share of stock. So just simply replace and use algebra to solve for y here. So hopefully you're thinking subtract 15 and then divide by 450 to get a y value here. So that's that. So we get 35 equals the right side, and then 35 divided by 450. So that yields that in your calculator, 7.7 repeating number of years, or approximately 7.8 years. So again, that represents 7.8 years since 2005. So I wrote this down here to show you something here. This is what the y variable means. In other words, if you start at 2005 and you add to it 7.8 years, you're going to get 2012.8. Now, what calendar year does that represent? And so some of you may think, oh yeah, that's 80% into the year 2012. Well, it depends on where the starting point is for this. If the starting point here was January 1 of this year, then 1 year later certainly would be in 06, 2 years later in 07, 7 years in 012, and then a little bit more, 80% into 012. The problem is this word right here. See how I had underlined? Since. The word since means since the very end of 05. So, or if you see the word after 05, you'll see that it means at the very end. In other words, the starting point here is at the very end of 05. That's what that since means. Think of it as December 31st in 05. And so if we do that, then that's going to bump us up into the next calendar year. So this would be, if it was just 7, it would be the very end of 012, which would be okay, but now you're going a little bit more, and that's going to bump you up into the next calendar year. So 2013 is the right year. So here's the moral of the story. When you see this from a starting point, always round up to the next whole number, and that'll put you into the right year. So 2013. And by the way, if you go back and look at maybe online, Netflix was way higher than $50 in 2013, and probably is more now whenever you're watching this. But again, this was just an assumption, or we're assuming that this remained true. But I think I wrote here, yeah, 2010 is when the value of Netflix started to increase more than linear. But let's assume that it did. I guess this question is assuming that it remained linear, but it didn't. But you'll see one of these in your reading activity today, or in this section.